Right guys, so based off of our lesson today, I thought it would be beneficial to do a little video just to show you how you can form and solve equations with regards to some of the more tricky questions that might appear on an exam question, okay? Now, the issue is why we may find this hard and difficult at first is because it's a mashup between algebra and geometry, okay? It's taking one element of maths with another and putting them together and expecting you to be able to confidently answer that to arrive at a final answer. Now, at first, you may be feeling quite sad about it, not too happy, not too confident, but hopefully by the end of this video, you're feeling slightly more confident where you're turning that frown upside down and you're feeling more confident. Essentially, I want you to be sat in an exam, see a question that involves a bit of geometry, a bit of algebra, and be able to answer it confidently. Now, I will do my best to make that happen, but I want you to look carefully, make notes, and then practice this going forward to ensure that you are in the best position in the exam scenario, okay? So we're gonna look at 3 questions. Let's get stuck into the first one. So essentially what you need to do is use what you know. So take what you're looking at here and apply the maths that you know already. So I know we've got a straight line across the bottom. With straight lines, let me just make sure I've got my pen ready, okay? With straight lines, I know that they add up to 180 degrees. So I know that this element here and this element and this together gives me 180 degrees. So when I add them up, they need to equal 180. So let's just write that out. So I've got 2x, like so, and I've got another x here, so 2x plus x plus 30, when added together, needs to give me 180 degrees, okay? Now that's looking good so far, but what I've got there is an equation. Now, I want to put my x's together, okay? Now, in order to do that, I need to just simplify it. So I've got 2x here, plus another x, altogether that's 3 x's, okay? So make my life easier, put 3x plus 30. Now, there's no other numbers, so 30 stays as it is, and together gives me 180 degrees. Now we're in a position to solve this equation. Now I'm going to change the colour of my pen just to help us track what I'm doing. So the aim of the game is to get x by itself. So in order to do that, I need to do the opposite. And I'll show you what I mean by that. At the moment, because 30 is being added to it and it's being times by 3. Now the 3x is pretty tight, so we can't touch that yet. We're going to deal with the floater here, okay? So we're going to get rid of the plus 30. How do we do that? We take it away. And whatever you do on one side, okay, you do to the other side. So we're taking away 30 from both sides. Essentially, it cancels it out, it's gone. So on the left-hand side, we are left with 3x, and then on the right-hand side, 180, take away 30, leave me with 150 degrees, okay? Looking good so far. The last thing I need to do, well, we need to do the opposite of times by 3, so now I need to divide by 3. And whatever you do on one side of the equal sign, we do on the other side. So I divide by 3 on this side. That's going to leave me with x by itself, and with a value next to it. So x equals, well, 150 divided by 3 is 50 degrees. X equals 50 degrees. And if I really wanted to, and if the question said, what are the sides of the other 2 angles, I can then put that into the diagram here. So 2 lots of x, 2 lots of 50 would be 100 degrees. And then a singular x, well, that's going to be 50 degrees by itself, like so. And a good way to do a check is just to see if these numbers add up to what you started on. So 100, add 50, add 30, 180 degrees. Yeah, perfect. That's a quick check there to know that I've solved that equation correctly. Okay, let's have a look at the next question. Okay, so now, once again, refresh yourself, go back to square one. What are we dealing with? Well, we've got a point here, okay? And angles around a singular point, okay, add up to 360 degrees. So I know that when we put these terms together and add them up, it needs to equal 360. So let's start with that. Let's start here. Let's start with 4x. Okay, 4x plus 100, okay, plus another x, and then finally plus 20. When we put them together, they're going to equal 360 degrees, okay, because we're dealing with angles around a point, okay? What I'm going to do, like I said earlier, simplify this, make my life easier. So 4x plus another x, that's going to be 5x And then 100 plus 20, that's 120. So 5x plus 120 equals 360. What do I do now? Well, I work towards solving the equation and getting x by itself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of the plus 120. That's the floater, remember? Leave the 5x, that's pretty tight. Get rid of the plus 120 by taking it away. So minus 120, and whatever we do to one side, we do to the other side. So you can see there, it's balanced, okay? It's like a balancing act. That's going to leave 5x by itself, like so. And then 360, take away 120, leaves me with 240 degrees. The last thing I need to do, and hopefully you guys are at this point where you're like, Sam, you need to divide by 5. Hopefully you're telling me that. You're correct. If it's being timed by 5, we now need to divide by 5, and we do it to both sides. And then you'll get a lovely little answer. Now I've done this before, so I know the answer is 48 degrees. In an exam, if you needed to, you could use a calculator, or if it was on a non-calculator paper, use the bus stop method. Now, don't do all of that work and slip up at the end by getting that division wrong. So make sure you're confident with your answer, do a little check, make sure you're happy. And once again, if you have the time and the opportunity in an exam, substitute that back into the diagram and make sure those angles add up to 360 degrees, okay? But yeah, these questions are worth multiple marks. So it's a really good way to practice your understanding of geometry and algebra. Mashing them together, that's what the exam is trying to do. But seeing what you can do with two different topics put together in one, okay? Let me just get on to the last question. So the third example we're going to be looking at is one now where we have a shape, okay? So it's not angles on a straight line, it's not angles around a point, it's angles inside of a shape. Now, hopefully you guys can agree, this is a four-sided shape. Now, angles inside of a four-sided shape, inside of a quadrilateral, add up to 360 degrees. So very similar to the last question we did, these angles need to add up to 360, okay? So let me get my pen ready. Black ink, excellent. So let's start with the top left corner. So we've got x plus 30. Okay, I'm going to do this a little bit smaller so I have enough space. Plus 3x plus 20. Plus 3x minus 10. Now I'm running out of space here, so I'm going to just drop down a line. Now in your exam, give yourself lots of space. Use as much space as you need, okay? And then find the plus the last little element plus x. Okay? They equal 360 degrees. What do I do next? I'm going to simplify it. Now, what might be helpful, if you've got a lot of stuff to look at there, is to group them together. So I'm going to use my pen here to group them together, and I'm going to include the symbol to the left. So x plus 3x, then we've got another 3x here. Now this is a plus, so I need to remember that, and then a plus x here. Okay, x plus 3x, that's 4x, plus another 3x, that's going to be 7x, plus another x, that is 8x. Now, last little bit, let's change the colour of my pen here. Let's go green. I've got plus 30, plus 20, minus 10. Well, 30 add to 20 is 50, minus the 10 is 40, okay? So it's going to be plus 40, and then that equals 360, okay? So hopefully you can see there, I've got all my terms together. I've then simplified it to give myself a nice equation to solve, okay? Now let's work through this slowly but surely. 8x plus 40, we know we need to get rid of the floater, so we minus 40. Now you may be thinking, Sam, that sounds a bit inappropriate saying floater, but if it helps you remember it, then do it. The 8x is pretty tight, the plus 40 is just floating there. Let's get rid of it, let's take it away. Okay, so on the left hand side, lights are out. Okay, we're just going to keep rolling with this, guys. This is just part of the act, okay? We're left with 8x equals 320 degrees. And then last but not least, how do we finish this? We need to get rid of the times by 8, so now we divide by 8. Okay, and then hopefully, like I say, in an exam, you've taken your time, you'll get an answer of 40 degrees. Now it could say, work out the biggest angle, work out the smallest angle. So what would you need to do? You'd substitute this value back into these expressions here and get a value. So that comes into substitution, which comes in at a later point. Okay, hopefully you found this video. I'm sorry that the lights have gone out. Maybe that's the sign I should call it a day. But yeah, guys, hopefully you found this video helpful. If it has, excellent. If it hasn't, feel free to drop me a message. I'll give you some practice examples to work through. Watch this time again. Revise, repeat, practice makes progress. Okay, guys, thank you for watching and see you guys soon.